Okay, here we go. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the pilot episode of Entrepreneurs. I will be your host, Ashley, and with me, co-hosts Rawad and Leigh. Welcome, guys.
Hi, Ashley. Hi, everyone.
Hey,
Hello, everyone.
very
And
happy
thank
to
you,
have
Ashley.
you. Absolutely. Very happy to be here with you today. So, I wanted to go ahead and talk about and let people know how we originally came together for this project. So, we met in Autonomy for sure, but I wanted to hand it over to Rawad to start to kind of give us an idea of what started him down this path of thinking that this is a project that he wanted to do. Take it away, Rawad.
Yeah, thank you, Ashley. So I had the idea before to do the podcast but I didn't take any action until Leigh approached me a few weeks back. I guess it was the New Year's or something. And then she asked me if she can help out in any way to start a show. So she gave me the idea of starting a show. And at the time I said, no, I have too much on my plate, maybe 6 months from now. And then what happened is I met you, Ashley, for the first time. We had our first call, we clicked, and you also mentioned the show, and we started talking. And I thought maybe we can just get started with it. We take it slow. And this is how it happened.
Very good. So, when you were originally thinking about doing a podcast, what was it that you wanted to convey? What was the subject matter that you wanted to discuss, and how did you want to use it for your business?
Well, the idea was not necessarily for my business, but I've been doing the market things sessions, and I thought maybe we can focus on entrepreneurship. And what I've seen is most podcasts, they interview people or they have people who do 10K, promoting 20K and so on. And I wanted to shed light on the other measurement of success, which can be autonomy and freedom, and also while being content with yourself, doing the right things. So we thought also of doing some presentations, if you recall, but I guess we're gonna be doing it somewhere down the line to have some panel discussions, open debates on the ethics of doing business and so on. For now, we're gonna be doing the interviews, and the people we're gonna be interviewing, they do not necessarily have to be entrepreneurs or established entrepreneurs. They can be thinking or considering starting a business. And the reason we want to do that is we want to highlight the journeys, what is going on in their minds and in their hearts. So that was
Absolutely.
the idea
And
of the.
I love that. And we will, I want to circle back to when we discuss sort of the plan for the show and what we want to do here and who we want to talk to and people on the different parts of their journey. And before we get to that, though, I wanted to take it over to Leigh and ask Leigh, what made you decide to want to do this a show or collaborate with Rawad? Sort of what was your idea and what got you thinking that this was what you wanted to do?
So, after joining Autonomy, I saw that Rawad was doing courses on advertising, and I had seen his work, and I was really impressed with it because he was really going into places that usually aren't covered anywhere, really. And I really enjoyed the fact that I was able to get a chance to uh, basically, get exposure to stuff that, you just never hear about. So that was highly impressive for me. And later, um, Rawad and I had had a actually earlier, Rawad and I had a great Zoom meeting early on when I joined Autonomy, and I really enjoyed our conversation and how we related on a lot of issues, uh, from music to business to just life, really, and even spirituality. So that was a great bonding experience. So after that, I was thinking, God, it would be really nice to be able to work with somebody like Rawad, to work with Rawad, not somebody like Rawad, and be able to, I think, basically get a chance to get some magic going and bring it out into the world. And so I thought, I haven't done a podcast really in the past. I used to be a DJ and I've done a lot of streaming in the past, but I wanted to try something different. So here I am, working with you and Rawad, and yeah, I just really excited about getting a chance to grow a show that will allow us to bring really interesting people to the fore, covering matters that a lot of people are not covering for life, self-sustenance, and autonomy. And yeah, and on with the show, sort of thing.
Very good. So for me, I will just say that so Rawad had reached out to me to set up a meeting, and I thought it was about registering for something that I had he had posted about, and I said I was interested in. So I thought that was what it was about, and we ended up having a great conversation. And then this idea came. We started talking about it, and then the whole team kind of came together. So just for the audience, been working on this for a couple of weeks, trying to really kind of figure out what we wanted to do. And I think that's a little bit still up in the air. We want the show to be organic. We want to really find our flow and see what we feel good about, and then what the audience is also interested in. So I want to talk about the plans for the podcast, but first I really want to get back to what Rawad said, which was not only, entrepreneurship and being independent can be many different things on a wide scale. It doesn't necessarily mean that you are at your point of a huge financial abundance, but being autonomous in your life and having this, being your own boss, those matter a lot. So I think that hearing a bit about Rawad's journey would be really beneficial to us, because he's actually walking the walk, making big transitions in his life to get to where he's at now. So, Rawad, can you give us a little background, a little history, how you got where you're at to be working for yourself, your own project, and making decisions, really major life decisions that you thought would be the most beneficial for you and your family? You're muted, Rawad.
Yeah, got it. So yeah, thank you, Ashley. I think I would like to start a bit to go like about 11 years to start there, because some people might not know how I ended up being where I am now in Mexico and starting my own ventures, I would say. So I come from Lebanon, and we had the worst, or we have the worst passport you can ever have. Like we cannot go anywhere in the world without having to go through a lot of bureaucracy, and the odds of getting the visas to go anywhere is very, very low. And then it happened that I learned that Turkey, we're allowed to enter Turkey for I think 90 days. And I thought, okay, maybe I'll go that for these 90 days just to get out for the first time from Asia or the Middle East. And this is where my journey started. I went there for 3 months, and then I ended up finding a job, although I was about to leave Turkey. I was applying for a job for a content editor at the time, and they did not accept my application. And they said, you can start in the call center. I said, I thought I'm not going to take the offer. I was very disappointed. It took a month and 5 interviews with everybody in the company. And on the night I was about to take, on the night before I take my flight back to Lebanon, I met a Turkish friend to say goodbye. And she told me, what are you doing? So in Lebanon, for those who don't know, there's not much hope. Sorry for the drama, but this is the reality. And this is why I ended up not going back to Lebanon. And I stayed and I took the job. And as they had promised, 6 months in, I was starting to dabble with marketing for the first time in my life. So I never learned marketing or anything. And then from there, I went to Dubai, to Germany. And this is where I learned about autonomy. And we had to move to Mexico because we wanted to homeschool our kids. And in Germany, this is not allowed at all. So thanks to autonomy, I thought that since most people are on the time zone of Mexico, that would be a good opportunity for me to move my family and perhaps start something with somebody. And that's what I did. After autonomy, I moved to Mexico. I quit my job, quite comfortable, I would say, job, and I started everything. Just one note, in Turkey, this is where I also met my wife. So that small step of going for 90 days ended up changing my life forever. Having 3 kids, happy wife, and moving to different places in the world.
Amazing. I love that story. So, how difficult was it for you to make the decision to not return back to Lebanon?
It was very easy because, as I said, there's not much hope. Like there's nothing, you cannot just, I cannot wake up any day and say that this is going to be a good day. This is how it was for me, at least. It was very, very bleak. The future for me was a bit dark. You never know when a war breaks out. Utilities are like, you don't know when you're going to get electricity, when you're not going to get it, when you're going to get water and not. So there was no reason for me to go back other than my parents, of course.
Right. And then as far as your transition to Mexico, how has that been for your family? Because you went from, as you said, you're working for someone else, and even though it was a comfortable job, here you're living life on your own terms, including your own business and including being able to homeschool your children.
So the decision took some time for my wife, at least, to come around and say, no, we cannot stay in Germany. Like, it was difficult for her, although we didn't have any options, because if we wanted to homeschool, we had to leave. Then moving here, the adjustment was, I guess, what you would call a culture clash or a culture shock, sorry, not clash, where everything is different. It's not as comfortable as in Germany, but the difference is that in Germany, there are hidden things or they're happening in the background that are changing. In Mexico, everything is more alive, more real. You can see the changes because the people are more, I would say, more independent, more free.
Absolutely. So then as far as your business that you have started. And, I think everyone here is familiar with your work from Let Us Market Things that you do bi-weekly in Autonomy. So I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about what you do with your business and what your goal is for that.
Can you repeat the question, please? I didn't get it.
Sorry, my dogs are barking. Yeah, so why don't you tell us a little bit about your business? So you're working for someone in Germany, and then you make the transition with your family here or to Mexico. So it's starting your own business. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how that came about and what you offer and some projects that you're working on?
Yeah, I think I have a number of skills. At first, there are two things I'm kind of focused on, or maybe one for now, which is the marketing aspect of things. So I'm doing consulting, but also the execution part. I also am helping people, and I'm create courses for themselves, from the design, the outline, the content, pretty much everything you need to do. And then I can also help out with marketing the course, but that's not really my focus at the moment. And I have a number of other things I'm doing, but these are the main my focus for this year.
Okay, great. Well, we certainly can get back to that, get a little bit more detail, but I think that's a good overview for the moment. So now I want to take it over to Leigh. And Leigh, why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey? Again, we all met in in Autonomy, but you have a really unique set of skills that you don't find very often. And it's certainly a little baffling to me because I'm not a tech person. Although I'm surrounded with a lot of really strong tech people in Autonomy, so I feel inspired to get better. But why don't you talk to us about your journey, and what you're looking to do with your work since taking Autonomy?
So let's start really early. So I uh, I didn't leave home, but I started working when I was 14 years old, and I was doing horrible jobs at the pub, sight unseen, of course, because 14's a bit young. But that allowed me to get a taste of what it was like to be on the bottom of the business world. And later on, I started doing things like, well, I was a bass player, so I had a chance to have my own quintet as well as my own jazz band. So I used to be the manager as well and get us hired around for various things, which was grand because um, it was really nice to have. First of all, the band had a great rapport. We all got on. We were all really good friends, and then having good rapport with our clientele as well was excellent. So I had a chance to start building a set of experiences, and throughout the years, I had various um, small businesses that I did, but only for a short amount of time. And then later in life, circumstances changed quite dramatically, uh, where I ended up in a situation where I wasn't able to move around very much at the time. And I thought, well, I haven't got much for working with my body at the moment. So I have my hands and I've got this. So I started, I used to hang out online all the time with people, and I met hackers and stuff, and I was always really impressed with what they was doing and very mystified. And I thought that they were all from another planet at the time. And eventually, they some of them took me under their wing, a couple of hackers, and started teaching me some um, stuff some knowledge about networking and operating system stuff. This was all Windows back in the day for me back then. This would be about 2000, yeah, 24 years ago now. And maybe even 25. And then I used to hang out on a network called IRC, which means Internet Relay Chat. And you need a special client to connect to that. But that's where all the hackers were hanging out and all the interesting, cool people. And we used to share all sorts of files of music that we'd made or photographs that we took or whatever. And there were some great communities there. But also there were a lot of help channels where people would volunteer their time to help people with whatever they needed help with. And I thought that was really interesting. And later I became one of those helpers as well on the IRC. And I started to write tiny scripts for my own client and for chatbots. And that's where I got my start in programming, funnily enough. And so when I hit some difficulties with my physical self, that's when I put my hands and my mind to work and start doing more and more scripting until I was eventually backwards engineering a web server, a chat server, writing sockets, which is pretty good thing to do if you're going to be a good programmer, and writing my own applications eventually, and yeah, just getting more and more advanced and getting input from hacker friends, programmer friends about what I was doing. And that eventually led me to a place where I was able to find some clients and save some money and get a plane ticket, because I decided I wasn't happy living in the United States, in America at that time, and I just needed to have a long holiday, a possible permanent one. So I ended up originally I was going to go to Sweden, but I ended up in Finland. So spent a long time in Finland trying to hone my skills of being a programmer, a web admin, but also doing things like working still on my music and learning graphics. So I wanted to be able to kind of become a one-person, one-stop shop of online talents, so that I could get together a business where, you know, if somebody wasn't necessarily looking for a web dev to build a site for them, well, maybe they need music for an animation, or maybe they need an animation in music or something like that. So yeah, I just got all these various skills together, and I ended up at a point where I kind of wasn't, the world had changed so bloody much from what I was able to do back in 2000 to just before the scamdemic started, and I was unable to find clients like I used to, because the places I used to go for my clientele were no longer there, unfortunately. Everybody had moved on to the big tech surveillance platforms like Twitter or Facebook or whatever. And I just, I know it's important to pay the bills, but I didn't want to become part of the massive traps that people were falling into out there. So, and then I ended up with an illness in 2022 that left me with a brain injury. And I thought, well, my life's over, because when I first got out of hospital, I was I was absolutely unable to function. And but time went on, and I saw myself slowly getting better and slowly starting to get myself able to walk better, see better, think better, talk better. And during this time, I kept, from the beginning of the scamdemic, I was watching Grand Theft World, hosted by Richard Grove, and he had this course, and I thought it was just an entrepreneur course, and I didn't realize that it's not just that. But I joined based on that, and I was able to get in, and that's where I met you two. And boy, what a blessing that's been.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting how so many people from across the world have been introduced through the course of autonomy, and how it really has changed lives, changed total directions of people's lives. I mean, it's really impressive. So, but before we move on, I wanted to have you touch on a little bit of the how you became interested in privacy and the Linux work that you're doing, and maybe even touch on some of the projects that you are offering right now. And I know that you don't necessarily have, your whole setup, but that's part of what, when I get back to Rawad, what I really want us to discuss is the spectrum of entrepreneurship. But before we get to that, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're working on, what you're offering, and how Linux became a thing in your life?
Thank you for that question. Yeah. So those hackers that I met them late 90s, like probably 98, 99. Couple of Dutch guys, and they were the ones who got me interested in security and understanding stuff about access, how the computer could be accessed by outside entities, how to protect oneself in various ways through that, and understanding how something like JavaScript that runs on everyone's browser, and this is 24, 25 years ago, I'm learning this, it is automatically a keylogger, so that anytime you're using a site, if they have the right kind of scripts running, they can log all of your keystrokes, so they can see exactly what you're typing, see all your passwords, and this is just regular websites. This isn't even like, so the browser isn't in a sense a Trojan, and a lot of people don't know this. So I was evangelizing about stuff that I had learned from these hackers to people over the years, but a lot of people were interested, unfortunately. And then so this was on Windows, the Windows operating system. I moved over to Linux, about 14 years ago now. I moved over to Linux, and it was an interesting, or maybe let's just say it's a long story, but I ended up on Linux. And what was great about moving over to this new operating system was I had all of the control I always wanted to have, all of the security I always needed to have, and the privacy. And so I started to learn this operating system, and work on becoming a better system administrator, and learn the security methods and stuff. And I'm not like a security expert, and it would take a very long time to go that far. But the nice thing about all of my years of experience on computers is that I've always been security and privacy minded. So at least I know what I'm doing in that realm. And at the beginning of the pandemic, I was watching all of the people talking about what was going on in plain sight on the big tech platforms. And I had a big problem with this because, on the one hand, it's good for people to see, oh, hey, there's some pushback. That's great. I'm not the only one. But the problem with this is that people were divulging really personal information. And I felt like that's the sort of situation where people need to not be sharing that with big tech and police states. So I actually offered people for free back then because I was just so concerned that, hey, I'll help you set up servers at your own home to be able to share files, have encrypted text chat, encrypted voice chat, uh, anything that you need to do to be able to not be oppressed and be able to freely express yourselves and not be censored, you can do. And I will be more than willing to help you. But back in 2020, 2021, people were in a place where they were like, well, someone's going to swoop in and save us. Well, that didn't happen, did it? And so basically, I just had to sit by and watch people learn the hard way. And what was great was when I came to Autonomy, I had actually kind of that all that stuff had fallen to the back of my mind, and I was put into a course called Pro Media, which is for building one's own course and putting it out. And I hadn't a clue what I was going to do. And one night when people were talking about their projects, I was sitting there panicking. And then it occurred to me, oh, wait a minute. I've always wanted to teach people Linux, and I've always wanted to teach people how to take care of themselves digitally. And I've always wanted to get people to set up their own servers and do that, take their own power into their own hands. So I decided that's what I'm going to do. And what was astonishing for me was when people found out about all of the stuff I wanted to do and teach through that portal. A lot of people came to me and asked for my help, and so it was great to get a chance to be exposed to a lot of different needs. It wasn't just the one thing of setting up servers. It was also a lot of things that I hadn't considered as well that made me realize that I could start a career that's honest in everyone's best interest, um, that would be a really positive thing for the future, our future on this planet, and that I could do this sort of work, uh, uh, surviving, doing something that I enjoy, that I love, that I have a genuine passion for, um, and show people that I genuinely care about their individual needs and their lives, because I want their lives to genuinely become better. So, yeah, this has been Autonomy's allowed me a chance to jump off into getting practice in. I don't have to deal with any weird, um, you know, uh, shills or weird people trying to rip me off or anything. It's just a really great place where I've had a chance to find out different needs and address them, and just meet some really amazing people who have amazing lives. So yeah, it's all become this wonderful sort of package for me, and I'm really excited to see that grow.
Amazing. That's really really lovely to hear your journey. And I think that I mean there's a lot there, but one of the things that I am taking away from that is these levels of entrepreneurship, and circling back to what Rawad was talking about as far as where we are on our journey, right? Entrepreneurship and autonomy mean different things. So one of the things that you both have hit on is the fact that we want to be doing things ethically, right? We don't want to be entrepreneurs or autonomous at the expense of other people. And that is one of the big themes in autonomy, is being excellent to each other. And I think that, there's a very high level of ethics, a desire to be very ethical. So we can get back to that. But one of the things that I wanted to have Rawad discuss is, who are the people that we want to talk to in our show, right? Because in our planning, we talked about these various levels. There are people that are wanting to become independent. There are people who are working on it actively as we speak. And then there are people who are already there. And that's sort of the folks that we want to talk about on their journeys and challenges and things like that. But Rawad, can you speak a little bit more um, about that? What information do we really want to get from these people at these varying levels of autonomy and entrepreneurship, and why?
But I guess before we get there, we need to hear your story, actually, your journey.
Yes. So thank you. So my journey is that um I went the normie route, basically, here in the States. I had whatever normal looks like. I went to traditional schooling. I went to a traditional 4-year university. I got my marketing degree. I was never really inspired by school, or college or anything like that. It wasn't that I was aware of the man, but it was that I didn't care. I just wanted to get through and get my degree and, move on with my life. And I thought I would start climbing the corporate ladder. So I hit the brick wall pretty quick after graduating from college. I moved away, not another country like both of you have done, but I just moved out of town and I started working at a bank. And I was working in customer service, and I realized that I really hated it. But it would take me many years to finally figure out, like, oh, I'm not a corporate America person. I do not like authoritarianism. I don't like doing things just because it was dictated from the top, and I don't like having a super rigid structure that makes no sense to like a human life. Like, it just, all of these things, right, that didn't sit well with me. And for a long time, I thought there was something wrong with me. Why can't I fit in this environment? Why don't I just get in here and thrive? But hindsight's 2020, of course, and I have the retrospect now that, not that is not for everybody. And it's a really restricting environment. And some people just don't thrive in that. And actually, a lot of these systems that have been set up on a global scale now are, in fact, to make sure that you don't thrive. That's the point. So it makes more sense to me now. And basically, I came into the liberty space several years ago, and I started waking up to, um, I don't want to get into the whole thing, but basically my problems with government, my problems with corruption. And then after 2020 happened, then I became aware of the push for globalism and this super top down control mechanism. And I personally really struggled during that time because I am from the South in the United States, from the Southeast, right? And there's supposed to be a rebel spirit. There's supposed to be an independence to these people that don't forget what happened many, many years ago, right? And yet they all did. And so watching to see everybody all over the world, people that you would have thought would have resisted this, that could have seen through what was happening, and they didn't do it. And that was really hard to watch. So even though I was fortunate enough to have people in my life that they were on the same page as me, they were like, yep, I got it. We're not falling for it. And that was great. And I knew that I was in a better situation than many other people, because I've talked to people and they said, I didn't know one single other person who agreed with me. And I thought about how hard that must have been, because it was hard for me, and I had a lot of people that I could talk to about it. So that was a really difficult time. And then there's a funny synchronicity about Rawad and I, that we both had been following Vin Armani, who is now he goes by his Orthodox Christian baptismal name, which is Cyprian. But he has been involved in the counter economics and the agorist space for a very long time. And he was early in the cryptocurrency and the Bitcoin space and understanding that. And he started a school class called Bitcoin Mystery School. So after Rawad and I had our meeting and we started chatting and we ended up connecting over on Telegram, Rawad said, "You're in Bitcoin Mystery School?" I was like, "You're in Bitcoin Mystery School?" So there's this connection there, but anyway, so I was following Cyprian and he was providing, in my opinion, really good analysis of the situation at hand. And he says that people call him a pessimist, but he considers himself a realist, right? But for me, it really helped to put into perspective what was happening on a global scale and to really come to terms. And I tried to do it as quickly as I could, that it was like after 9/11, you're in a new world. Everything is different. It's not going back to the way that it was. And you can dwell on that, or and it's okay to grieve that, and I did, but you have to now get your footing and figure out how you're going to move forward, right? And there's certain ways to do that. And I felt like that message very much coincided with the autonomy message. So I was familiar with Richard Grove from, I know certainly a lot of people have followed him for many, decades even, but I wasn't there. I just saw maybe like 7 or 8 years ago, he was on Pete Quiñonez's show. And I found out about autonomy at some point that Pete Q had gone through the program, and then he had started talking about how it was um, instrumental for him or very helpful for him to be part of this community for when that major event ended up happening, right? And the world changed. And I thought to myself that I needed that, right? Because I knew, or I felt like the global predator class was not done with humanity and whatever plans that they had and lockdowns and restricting our freedom and all that stuff. And I felt like I needed to be around people who I could discuss with this and who could help me stay grounded, but also to understand and process in a rational way what was happening. But the other thing that's very important for me is not being black pilled about what is happening. Yes, I do think we're at a really difficult time in humanity, but that does not mean that we cannot overcome. So that was one of the messages that Richard Grove puts out there that really resonated with me, is acknowledging, yes, we are on an uneven playing field, but we have opportunity here. And that was really the message that I loved, is that we have a chance to connect with people who are like-minded and to still prosper in this rigged game. And that very, very much. And
Okay.
then once I got into the community, and then I started seeing opportunity and skills everywhere of all people in my life who maybe don't believe in themselves, who maybe don't think that they have something to offer. And I'm thinking, yes, you do. You do. And I am still personally working on peeling back the layers of programming, or I even consider it like a glass dome that they put over us. Through all these various systems of what you're capable of, and to try to continuously remove that and to move out of the scarcity mindset. So that is what I'm working on my own journey. I have what I consider to be a micro business, is what I do in my real life, because I do work for myself. Um, and so I do have some flexibility and some say in my life, and that works better for me than being in corporate America. But I'm also interested in working with people in this space and beyond, to really start working on my own autonomy and hopefully eventually bring the financial abundance, but to do it, as we talk about, in an ethical way that aligns with my values and that I can feel really good about. So that is really my story of, sort of my journey, and then obviously meeting you guys in class and through the program. So
That is an
Thank you.
epic adventure. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, so now back to Rawad and let's talk about who we want to talk to um through our podcast here, and kind of what are we, you know, what is the plan? What do we want? What information do we want to convey? What do we want to learn from them? All of that good stuff.
Yeah, I guess learning the journeys of, so to say, normal people who are not necessarily focused on making the big buck, right? Because this is how it's portrayed. Whatever you look, any podcast there, how to make 10K a month, how to make your first million. And you think that this is, if you listen to them, you will learn how to make that much, as if this is the only thing you need to know to be happy. Whereas as an entrepreneur, it's more about the freedom, as we said, and the autonomy that you get to draw your own limits. But it doesn't mean that you, so you mentioned that you didn't like listening or being told what to do. It's still, you will be, maybe you will not be told what to do, but you need to be able to listen to know that you don't have to do everything yourself. There are smarter people in their own specialization. So you need to know how to listen to others, and they might tell you what to do. And another thing we wanted to make our show a bit different is that we want whoever comes to the show, if they will, to share their screens and show us what tools they use, whether for productivity, whether for their marketing, how they build their website, maybe their day-to-day tools that they use for staying organized and so on. So this is something that we're looking forward to. And yeah, the inspiration will come from that. So it's not only listening, but also hopefully we will be able to show how things work, just drawing the curtain from behind people's screens and see how they function on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I really like that. The idea of demystifying entrepreneurship, because I do think that it's there. And I personally felt like I think I was in the mentality that success was not for me, that this was not for me. So now that I've changed my mindset, I think that other people can, maybe they're in that same place and maybe they can change their mindset as well by being shown people from these different degrees of entrepreneurship. And yes, as you said, like, how do you do it? What is your story? How did you transition? What tools do you use to really help you? And maybe we'll even have some themes that are recurring between, a thread between these people that we can really start to identify, to maybe even develop and convey some best practices as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
One more
and
thing I wanted to, sorry,
oh no, please.
Leigh, I wanted to highlight that the news in Entreprenous, I think we need to clarify this. The news is in, I think in philosophy, it's the mind, the intellect. In Orthodox Christianity, it's the mind and the heart. But it's also we're trying to hint at the noetic faculty, it's called, that works on both levels, the heart and the mind. And this is what we are expecting from our show too, that the entrepreneurs and the people we will have on the show. Maybe we'll mention, I don't know when you planning to mention the first guest, is that they share both their mind and their hearts with us, and not just the mind and how to get stuff done and how to make this much or that much.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
go ahead.
so sorry. Yeah, I had an interesting realization today that when I was doing the dishes, and I had realized, so I've always been pretty anti-authoritarian, and I decided that I needed to learn things on my own rather than get someone else's approval to do it or whatever. But so I made myself really useful with many skill sets. But the problem was also being anti-authoritarian I was driven into various aspects of life that were detrimental. For example, um, when you look at people after the scandemic who are doing really well, they have their own property, they have their own land where they're able to grow their own food. A lot of them are doing husbandry. Um, they're trying to get their own energy generation issues sorted. So there's a lot of this genuine autonomy going on. But somebody like me ended up, instead of being successful in that way, I was so anti-authoritarian and so um, hurt, driven, and angry by uh, the system that we grew up in that I ended up becoming too anti-authoritarian to my own detriment. And so this is, I think, going to be a really important part of the Entrepreneurs series, is that we will see people who will be healthy examples of what we want to have represented in the world, and also to help ourselves through our own issues to become more successful and get past the traps that we can all fall into due to, ourselves and the system that we grew up in. Just had to add that in. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that, and I do think that it's going to be very nourishing, this journey, to have conversations with people who are on the spectrum and find out what is their why and how they got there and what made them start moving in that direction to get there. And also, I wanted to say that I was glad that Rawad addressed the noose in Entrepreneurs, because it is unique, and he was the one that came up with the title for the show. So I do think that was important to discuss the title and the why, which I think is very lovely. So thank you for that, Rawad.
And the
And
logo. I think we
oh,
need to address
yes.
the logo.
Yes.
It looks like a heart, and as Stefano said it, he thought it was a beef heart. It's just what we're working on animating it to make it a bit clearer. But if you look closer to the logo, it's made up of it's half brain and half heart. I think nobody could see this, but I think we come. I think Leigh, you're going to be working on doing that, right?
I am. I'll figure something out.
Yes. Good. Yeah, I think that was good as well. But I do like the logo a lot. I like the goal for the show. And I hope that we have laid out a pretty comprehensive idea of how we came together, sort of where we're headed and why, and what our goal is for the show. I also wanted to let everyone know that is participating with us, thank you for attending our show. And if you have any questions, or if you would like us to go over anything, please feel free to put that in the chat. And if you can't go to everyone, that's fine. Just send it to one of us. That is totally okay. And before we wrap up, I wanted to touch base again with Rawad on a little bit of your journey. So you have your own business, you're doing consulting, you're doing teaching, and then what is your goal for your marketing business that you have right now? I mean, obviously, I know that you want to continue to grow the business, but what else can you tell us about what you're working on and the work that you do?
Yeah, what I want to go with it is to pretty much to build a full service agency. At the moment, I want to focus on helping mostly B2B or B2C, like customer, business to customer, or to businesses, service providers, with launching a new product or their brand. So this is what I want to be focused on. Other things I'm doing, which I guess I should mention, it's mostly within Autonomy, but soon I will be opening it up for beyond that. So anybody's watching, we will be providing links. So I'm very into partnerships, So I'm working with Daphne Romani on a time and energy management course. There's somebody from the Freedom Cells here in Morelia. He's done a course on attention and its importance for creativity. So that might be the sequel. I already spoken to him, and maybe we will do a sequel to that time and energy management, because I guess they go hand in hand. There's the sales funnel building workshop with Elise Skiba. It was supposed to happen like coming weeks, but there's been some delays. And other than that, I guess I can mention my first course was the SEO copywriting course. So I like to build courses still. This is part of my offering as well, because kind of my motto is that as an agency, I don't want my clients to be dependent on me forever, right? So we hear a lot. So this is, if you like, the ethical part of things. It's not unethical if you want people to remain dependent on you, but if there's an opportunity to give them the education and the material that they can do things by themselves, I think that's great, because this is how I'm marketing my services. So when you come and work with me, I will be more not just doing things for you, but I also will be kind of your coach and mentor. And these courses that I'm building will be part of my offering, so that people can understand the work that I do. And then after we're done working together, if they wish, they can keep on doing the stuff relying on these courses.
Lovely. And I'm hoping that as we go, we can maybe do a little more deep dive on the projects that you are both working on, because I do think that you have a lot of active projects that are worth shedding light on. So I think that is good to continue to focus on as we go. The other thing that I wanted to let everyone know is where they can find us. So we have a bit.ly site that Rawad set up for us, and we also have a YouTube channel, and maybe we'll grow, some other, maybe we can publish to Rumble and, other places like that. But for right now, we have our YouTube channel and our bit.ly. And Rawad, do you have our website? And we can put out some show notes that will have all of that information as well. But, do you wanna give them our website?
Yeah, so our website is entreprenous.live. So we don't have a bit.ly. It's now a website. We're still working on it. For now, you will
Gotcha.
find the links to our socials and platforms. There will be also, we're adding a form for anyone who wants to submit a suggestion, like guest they want to see featured on the show. And I would like to mention that it's not the people we're going to be inviting to the show will not be all from Autonomy. Autonomy is just what brings us together, but we're planning on getting people from outside of Autonomy as well, so that we can learn from people who maybe think differently or they have different experiences as well. So I guess that's about it. Then we will be also adding the Zoom registration for those who want to attend live. We're not going to be streaming live anytime soon, but we will be doing these recordings, and we're hoping to have people on board so that they can enrich the episodes with their questions. And I guess we're going to add a link to Autonomy for those who are interested in exploring what Autonomy is about. So I think that can be a life-changing for some of our listeners and people who are watching us as well.
Absolutely. I think that it is a wonderful place to start peeling back some layers, recognizing that limits have been put on us, invisible, through the systems, but we don't have to stay there. And it is a work in progress. But if you're willing to do the work and you're willing to start networking with the wonderful people in that community, you can start making huge changes in your life. Right between your ears, as Rich likes to say. So the other thing that I wanted to let everyone know is that we are going to be having our first guest, and that's going to be our current plan is publishing bi-weekly. So we are actually going to speak with His name is Jim, but he goes by the Drizzle, and he is the proprietor of Grand Theft World Liberty Radio. And he is somebody who has made that journey. He has a really interesting story. He has an interesting product that he puts out every week, and it's a lot of fun. I don't want to give too much away because I want him to discuss it. But if you haven't checked it out, it's over on Odyssey under Grand Theft World Liberty Radio. Really unique setup. So I'm very excited to talk with him. And I think that's going to be really good. So that's our plan so far. And then again, I just want to encourage anyone, if you have any questions for us, or if you have suggestions or feedback, please feel free to reach out to us in the forum. We are really happy to hear from you, and we're certainly extremely appreciative of your time and for joining us today. I really appreciate it. So, Leigh, Rawad, do you have anything else to add before we close up?
I'd just like to say I had a smashing time, and I'm really grateful that I got a chance to work with you and Rawad. This has just been wonderful, and I'm thanking everyone for showing up. It's great to have this bountiful, positive energy.
Yeah, thank you,
Great.
Leigh and
Thank you.
Ashley and everyone for making it today.